Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hey, what's up?
So we are doing another intro before a talk before the podcast. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we, as you may know, we were up in Lake Tahoe for the Spartan Media Fest. They're doing some really cool stuff. We snagged a couple of interviews. The last one we published was Rob Wolf. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed that one. I know we got a lot of great feedback in the Garage Gym Athlete Facebook group from that conversation, so I appreciate that. Now we're dropping another one. So I've actually interviewed this person before, but not the duo. So this is Kelly and Juliet Starrett from, not Mobility WOD, from the Ready State, formerly known as Mobility WOD. And we talk about them transitioning and making that change and stuff like that. But I did interview Kelly. It was kind of a shorter interview on the Better Humanology podcast. But I actually, me and Joe, we actually got to sit down with Kelly and Juliet. We ate dinner, with them the night before, and then also got to talk to them, and record it. So that was really cool. So let's get some of your thoughts, Joe. Let's do updates at the end. Let's talk about the episode first, then we'll do updates. All right, so you go first, man. What are your thoughts on getting to sit down with Kelly and Juliet?
They were super cool. I remember the night before we just sat down at their table because it was actually just the only table free, and they were super awesome, asking us all about what was going on, all about us, and then seeing them the next day was just like hanging out with friends or whatever. So they were really cool to spend some time with.
It was really funny so the dinner the night before, I love to tell the kind of the behind the scenes of some of this stuff, is Joe and I were late, pretty late.
Couldn't find the dinner after we tried 5 times.
We couldn't find the place, and then we finally show up, and most of the food is gone, and then most of the seats are gone. But in these kind of environments, it's kind of funny, in the health and fitness space, in the health and fitness space, people like Ben Greenfield, Kelly, Juliet, they're like semi-celebrities in this kind of setting, right? I mean, if you were to take them to a random airport or public place, nobody'd know who they are, but in our space, everybody knows who they are for the most part. And so for that reason, the reason I'm saying that is because we're at this health and fitness event, but everyone's scared of them because all the tables are taken in the entire place, every seat, but their table is got 9 empty chairs. No one will go sit next to them because everyone was scared, and we were like, well, might as well, so we just sat down, and that was really cool just to be able to have the pre-conversation because Kelly and I have a mutual friend and business partner, so I got to talk to him a little bit about that stuff. We caught up, and just getting to know them a little bit more before jumping in the conversation, I think made this interview, even better than it would have been had we not.
We also found out that we didn't get any vegetables because Kelly ate them all.
That is exactly it. So he has a challenge. He drops a challenge. I've actually been doing this intermittently. I haven't committed to a 30-day challenge or anything like that, but I've kind of been measuring. He challenged, and it's in the podcast, but I think it was 800 grams of fruits and vegetables every single day. And he doesn't care. He's like, I don't care what it is. And the only thing I don't know, and I didn't ask, the only stipulation was, is it 800 grams of vegetables and 800 grams of fruit? So 1,600 total grams, or is it just 800 grams of both? Because I've been doing it, and I've been finding it fairly easy the days that I do track, because a cup of blueberries is 140 grams, boom, right off the bat. And I do that in a shake. And then if you eat a banana or you have a salad, a salad is probably about 100 grams of greens. And, so it just wasn't, it's not that hard, but I mean, still really healthy. So that's the only, if I had a follow-up question with him, I would ask. What was your take on that? Do you remember that?
I think it was total. I just whatever you're eating that day, because I think you mentioned, and I don't think juices or anything like that count, because he was talking about just eating a bunch of apples. Like you can only eat so many apples.
Yeah, well, he was saying like, he said, I don't care what it is. So if you want to eat 800 grams of apples a day, go for it. But you'll be sick of them really fast. And I agree with that. So that's a really cool challenge. I think something that people could take away. And then we just dive into a lot of different things. And it's so much so that it'll be hard to name this episode. But we talk about, like I said, the rebranding of their company and the reason they are doing that. We talk about eating fruits and vegetables. We talk about muscle contraction practice. We talk about aerobic conditioning. We talk about 100-mile bike races. We talk about general physical preparedness and actually training for things. We talk a little bit about mobility, the ready state, and I don't mean the company, I mean like what that means. Like we hit on so many different topics in this conversation. I think that you'll get a lot out of it no matter what you're interested in. So this is a really cool one, and that's about all I have, man. You have anything else on this one?
I just remember them being like really pro to positive change in the fitness community. Like even if it like they run a gym, they have their own programs, but they don't really care if people sign up with them for the programs. They just are encouraging people to do anything, even if it's just to go for a walk your kids to school, anything. And that was kind of cool to hear.
Yeah, I think they are the real deal. You know, there aren't many out there. I call them, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I call them true believers. And there aren't a lot of those people out there in this space. You know, normally everyone's selling something. And I say that like they are selling something. They have something to sell. We have something to sell. Everybody has something to sell. So take that aside. But does that person truly believe in what they're selling so much so that, like you're saying, they're okay with, hey, I'm just recommending the idea. Like, do this. It doesn't have to be my product or service. I think that's good to a certain degree, a real true believer in their space. All right. So we're working in reverse here. Give me an update on anything. Your life.
I finally put together and started using my spin bike that I ordered like 2 weeks ago. I don't remember when exactly I did, but it came in and I used it, and it was good. Wasn't bad. I've never been a biker spin person or anything like that, but it's great to just be able to throw in, and for warm ups especially. Also because my Airdyne is broken, so that helps.
Yeah. So you're enjoying it.
Yeah, it was good. And I got one where I didn't get a Peloton like every single person told me to get, because I don't want to drop $3,000 and then have a monthly subscription. So I just got like a sub $500 bike. It's sturdy, it's nice, and it has a place to hold my iPad. So I just Googled on YouTube for a spin class, threw it on there real quick, and did it after I did a whole bunch of accessory and sexy Saturday stuff.
So in place of Meet Yourself Saturday, you did a light little spin. Nice little.
Yeah, it was not like easy, but I had to get my money's worth. I had to try it out.
Yeah, I really think Peloton. I really think that. I mean, if you get a Peloton, that's what you do. You know what I mean? Like that.
That's your gym.
That would. I mean, money aside, like if you could have all the money in the world, but if you, like, do you want to just do that thing? Like that would be hard for me to commit to. I just. Believing in well-rounded fitness programs, they're great to have, but like if all you do is cycle on a spin bike, nonetheless, that'd be challenging. But I know a lot of people are out there doing it, and that's kind of what Peloton wants. But yeah, I'm glad that you didn't get one. I don't think it's worth it, with especially just being a part of Garage Gym Athlete and everything else. Like that bike is like 10%.
Yeah,
of
maybe
your fitness.
Once a week.
Yeah,
maybe once a week.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, the only update I have. Lately I've just been talking about Murph in my updates, so I'll continue that. And I had just a crazy Saturday. I don't even know what all happened. We went out for breakfast. We had soccer games, football games, like all this stuff going on. And then things just compounded. I think my family ended up coming over to my house, and we did like a dinner and all this other stuff. And I was like, wow, I just actually haven't fit Murph in today, like at all. And there's absolutely the only way I'll push Murph to a Sunday is if I have an event on Saturday, like our upcoming North Carolina Spartan Beast or my previous 100-mile bike race, things like that. Those are the only situations which I'm okay pushing it. Otherwise, just pushing it because I got busy and didn't plan well, that's on me. So I ended up doing it like pretty late, like 8 or 8:30 That's late for me to start a workout, and especially Murph. And so, yeah, got it done. It was kind of much crappier than normal coming off a PR performance to that. Wasn't great. Now to talk about the PR performance, dude, I was pretty jacked up from that. It's very interesting that Murph, a regular old Murph, not going very fast, doesn't affect me that much. Like, I'm really not even sore, like the slightest bit. But that I was sore for like 4 days after the PR Murph. My hamstrings were really sore. I don't know if it was from the running because I hadn't been doing a ton of running that fast. And my lats were sore. Just, when you're it's physics. When you're doing that much work in a shorter amount of time, you're doing more work, per the work equation. But it made me very sore. I just find that very interesting because same movements done a little bit faster equals 4 days of soreness versus 0 days of soreness. So that's it.
Yeah. So like you say always, if you want a harder workout, just go faster.
Exactly. It's a great strategy. It's the best. All right. Well, that's all I have updates wise. I will say Killing Comfort book. I'm going to be mentioning it every time. Coming out next year. If you want to get that book pre-release, go to killingcomfort.com and check that out. Also, if you have any questions for us or you want to see any topics on the podcast, garagegymathlete.com/AMA, and you can submit your questions. We've already had a lot of people do both of those things. So you're going to see a lot more information coming out in both regards, both about the book and these Ask Me Anythings. But until then, enjoy this podcast with Kelly and Juliet Starrett from the Ready State. All right, I'm sitting here with Juliet and Kelly Starrett. How you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Yeah, glad to have
Pumped to be
you.
here.
A little afraid for tomorrow, if I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I'm always a little afraid when I come to.
We're having trouble. We're having trouble focusing given our future.
Yeah, because of the super, right?
Yeah, We're
downhill on the quads. You go up KT22, you get a little cold, then you go downhill.
Forget it. What I'm worried about is swimming across that frigid lake in my clothes.
Yeah, I can't believe there's a swim. That's
Yeah.
Do we know the
Fine.
distance on that yet?
It's all the way.
You can.
It's cold.
From prior,
That's how long it is.
From prior experience, you can just like breaststroke the whole thing. It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
If you're Spartan, you go underwater. You don't need air.
Yeah, I mean, what if you just want to do like doggy paddle or something?
Side stroke.
That,
I think
Stroke
it's
is fine.
100%. We actually have an ice bath, so that's not. We just know that when you get out, it's gonna suck. Like, so the swim in the cold water, or whatever. That's. I mean, 3-time world champion, whitewater paddler here.
You guys are both like former gnarly radical military guys. You have to be able to be like good at cold water. That's like a prerequisite.
That's actually not true. Those guys are terrible at cold water. Always, they just do it.
Right. It's
They don't
he
like
hates
it.
cold water. I'm more of an ice bath guy. Like I have some inoculation, but what you're talking about, like I get out of the ice bath, I put on a towel, I go inside. Like it's not like okay, I got like 5 miles left, to run now.
in your wet clothes.
I appreciate that everyone here at the race, you can tell they fall into two camps. Like functional training, you lift weights, you do gymnastics, you're like, the run downhill is going to kill me. Everyone else is like, I wonder if I can do the obstacles because I run marathons during the week. There's a clear split in the kind of athlete that's here this weekend.
Yeah, and Kelly and I are the obstacle people. We're like, pull some heavy bag down from the air. Got it. Yeah. Running downhill for 5 miles.
That's going to be brutal. Keeping those short, choppy steps. Is that the official recommendation? Like what?
Really long stride skips. I hope don't fall.
Max effort, single leg bounding downhill. That's good.
All right, so I wanna hop into a big shift for you guys recently. I think it's really awesome. I love the term. So you guys officially went from Mobility WOD to the Ready State. So tell me a little bit more about that. Why the shift and what it means to you guys?
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Well, I'll start by saying, like all great things, it was 2 years in the making. And there were kind of 3 reasons why we decided to make the shift. The first one is that we felt like we were having to do a lot of explaining over the years to people. They're like, mobility is sort of a newer term. And then we would always have to say WOD, kind of like workout of the day. And so we just felt like the term was kind of confusing to a lot of people.
And we'd miss a lot of people, before Jay just finishes that sentence or finishes the trifecta of reasons, one of the things that happens is we believe strongly in taking the lessons we're learning in human performance and bringing it to the people's homes. And the more jargony and technical and unrelatable it is, it doesn't
Yeah,
skip.
we just felt like, WOD.
We're not helping enough people.
And
Right.
we, by the way, own a CrossFit and we love CrossFit. Yeah. But WOD is decidedly a CrossFit term. So we felt like it was both confusing to people and also maybe off-putting to a certain subset of people because they're like, WOD, CrossFit term. I don't CrossFit, so therefore I don't need to do mobility. I think the second thing was that there started to be so many WODs. When we started,
200 WODs.
we were so clever in 2008. We were like high-fiving each other in our backyard, like we are the cleverest two people on earth, mobility WOD, ha, 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 ha. And then, as you guys well know from being in this industry, there are literally like 500 other companies that are blank WOD. I mean, every sport you can think of has a sport WOD. There's sobriety WOD, faith WOD, ROM WOD, go WOD. And, really, even with ROM WOD, for example, what they offer, and we actually don't really feel like we're competitors to them. We feel like we're doing something super different from them. They offer follow along yin yoga.
Right.
And what we do is
great.
Which is great. We're fans
And
of
they're
that.
great people.
But everybody's always
Not our business.
like mobility WOD versus ROM WOD. And we're like, well, actually it's two different things. But just because of the WOD thing, it just became confusing. So we're like, you know what? And then I think the third and maybe biggest reason is that while we do offer mobility videos, and that's what we're known for, we do all this other stuff. We teach courses to professionals. We teach, we have things like pelvic floor courses for regular people who want to fix their pelvic floor problems. We've written books. We do a lot of consulting. Kelly has a big speaking engagement calendar. So we kind of felt like the name Mobility WOD didn't really encompass all the things we were doing as a business. So we just really wanted to make it more accessible. We wanted to kind of distance ourselves from the cluttered WOD world, and we wanted to sort of have a name that better fit what we were doing.
Yeah. And what's funny is I actually own GarageGymWOD.com. Yeah. I don't use it, but I own it because I jumped on it
No one else is going to own it.
early on, like you guys. I was like, it's a great idea. But
You're like, genius. I'm genius.
And the world has shifted. People have become a lot more sophisticated. And one of the things that's happened is, early nascent, if you look at FMS and Perform Better Kids and CrossFit, the world is out. The world has changed. High intensity exercise is here. Yeah. And it's evidenced by how hard people are working in SoulCycle and Barry's Boot Camp and Orange Theory. And one of the things we know is that, man, when we started this thing, we've owned a gym almost 15 years. And you couldn't buy a kettlebell in San Francisco.
Right.
And now, you buy kettlebells at Target. Yeah. Something has changed radically. Mm-hmm. And that's a shift that people have become more sophisticated and are a lot more comfortable doing basics in their kitchen, which we think is the revolution. If we're going to continue to actually move forward, we've got to empower people where they can train and exercise and make themselves feel better in their homes or the place where they're going to do it. Maybe that's the gym, the garage gym at their work at lunch. So to that extent, the Ready State really allows us to go into people's homes and their environments and meet them where they need to be met, not just performance, but hey, let's make you feel better. Let's make it so you can get up off the ground more effectively. And that really, I think, is accompanied in the shift. And then also gave us a chance to get back to what we love to do, which is coach and teach movement. Like that is the thing that, that this was all built on in the first place.
Yeah, and I think Kelly's right. We feel like what we're serving up as a product is appropriate for like a high level athlete as it is for like my 75-year-old mom who is just trying to be like a functional 75-year-old. Right. And so we feel like, just the name and sort of the whole ethos of the Ready State is way more welcoming to a way broader audience. And so that's why we're so pumped about it.
And lastly, we have been paying attention. So, we started this thing. I started teaching our course in 2008. And, imagine hundreds of days of teaching elite coaches, getting to I work with every branch of the government, every branch of the military, and we have seen a lot of data. And which means this gave us a chance to reimagine what we thought was the best way to use our information, deliver it, repackage it. And it was time. We just had a chance to, sort of say, look at all of this experience. Now let's reimagine how we're going to put that experience into the world. And this was a chance to kind of hit reset globally.
I got one other point, too, to make. The other thing that was big for us is, and I don't know if you guys went to Mobility WOD recently, but we sort of shot ourselves in the foot in some way by making so much content, being so prolific, that what we realized started happening to new people. Our super users were fine. They're like, content, take it. But we'd have these new people come in the door for, from wherever they came from, and they literally would open the door and it was like, hello, here is the Library of Congress. You're at the front door. Good luck to you. It was too much. And so while we've kept all of our archive content on the Ready State, and you can find any of our old videos you want, we've really tried to curate the content more and actually not offer as much content, offer like really good quality content that's relevant for what people are doing, but not quantity. Because before we just overwhelmed people. I mean, new people would come in and be like, oh my God, like I just typed in shoulder and I found 100 videos. Yeah. Where do I even start?
Kumite.
Yeah, go. So
Drinking from
so
a
it's
fire
just
hose.
been a chance for us to sort of re-envision how we're serving up content too, and try to do it in a way that really meets people where they are and what they need to do.
And before we move on, I'll just say, I was like, Jay, we should change the name. Get it done. And I knew Juliet could do it. So, that's really what it came down to. I was like, she'll handle it. I'm going to go over and make some stretching videos.
There was one point where he's like, let's change the name. I'm thinking 3 months would be a good timeline. And, my jaw hit the ground and I was
She's
like,
like 18 months. And
I was like, 18
seriously?
months. Yeah.
Here we are 2 years later, right?
Yeah, 2 years later.
It takes a lot of work. And
Does it?
Yeah, well, I mean, so we've ran into that same problem. When we had Garage Gym Athlete a few years ago, we'd have people could log in and like, oh, here's everything you need to do with your nutrition. Here's 15 different training programs. Here's this daily workout. And people would just immediately, they'd sign up and then they'd quit. They'd be like, way too much. So once we narrowed it down, like, here's the path you need to take, given your circumstance in your situation. It helps people a lot more. And I just immediately understand it. That's my favorite thing about the Ready State. Like, the Ready State, I don't need much more explanation. Like, I fully get it. And so I love the rebrand 100%. Cause
you're exactly right. Like, we just started polling our friends over the last couple of years. Like, hey, what does the Ready State mean to you? Like, if you just read that word, what does it mean to you? And literally 100% of the people, while they all describe it slightly differently, they all get it. Like, everybody gets what it means and they get the ethos.
So one of the things
Hey,
we've got to do a better job
waving me down.
You're just doing crazy stuff with your mic. Is that we know that the revolution is getting what we think is best practice into the hands of the people who are actually leading real lives. And one of the reasons we are such advocates of having a few kettlebells and a pull-up bar at home and being able to program at home is that people are leading really sophisticated and complicated and busy lives. If you have a kid, you're dead. If you,
right.
When are you going to work? Have a baby. Let me know how that goes for you, right? So when are you going to train? Are you going to spend 20 minutes driving to the gym, another hour there, 20 minutes back? Dude, that's 2 hours. And a lot of people don't have that luxury. So we've got to do a better job collectively reimagining what we think these best practices look like, which means we've got to come into people's homes and streamline how we do that so we can expand the conversation. And, we think that the revolution, again, is happening now where people are becoming a lot more sophisticated about their nutrition and sleep. And that's starting to happen. But if we're going to make the next quantum leap, we have to make it simpler, on-ramp people, and start earlier. And that's going to happen in the interface of the home, not necessarily with the professional.
So moving to home gym, garage gym, fitness, and I think we're very much in line in that mentality and mindset. But something you mentioned of like back when you first started your CrossFit gym, like you couldn't buy a kettlebell at Target. It's very similar. I did a lot of DIY projects early on in my content creation, and I did how to build your own rings. Now people get on my website and they're like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever... I'm like, you don't understand how hard and expensive rings were when I first... Like, Rogue was a startup company, that, when I made my first set of rings and did this blog post.
Did you melt the PVC in your garage?
I've done that version, and then I made my own PVC version with Gorilla Glue, and like... It was.
Yes,
I've done a couple
so
iterations.
With you. Yeah. Kelly found at like West Marine way back in the day that you could get these plastic rings that were used for some kind of like boating.
Commercial fishing nets, and you could attach a cam strap to them. And that's what we had for rings for years, because literally that's what was available. And or there were gymnastics rings, but they were so prohibitively expensive that no one would buy them.
Well, and so to fast forward to now, we have... You can buy anything and everything on the planet, which can become overwhelming. Also, like the information overload that we're in, like
for sure,
people don't even know what to do. So for someone to be in the ready state, what would be your recommendation for at-home utensils, items, maybe like a starter kit, something that they should be able to utilize?
Well, let's start with the idea today that this is going to be a game that you're not going to win. So stop playing your health and wellness and fitness like a game that's perfect, that you can win and you can control the variables. Instead, start to shift the mind of, today I'm going to play as well as I can, which means maybe I'm going to get as much sleep or as quality sleep as I can. Maybe that's 4 hours of really good sleep. And then I'm going to not worry about the fact that I'm trashed, right? I'm going to say that was what I could do. Right. I'm going to eat the best quality food that I have accessible to me, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to maybe I mobilize or walk, and then that's my movement practice for the day. And tomorrow I'm going to do better. And so one of the ideas is trying to really meet people in the context of their lives. Yeah. And so, for us, look, we think at the very least, you definitely need a ball and you definitely need a roller and you should have a band, but, you need a wine bottle to start opening up your quads. Right.
Right.
So it really is press anywhere to begin. At the heart of this conversation is, what can I control today? And then who's responsible for pain? Who's responsible for musculoskeletal health? How do we reimagine where that's being taken care of? Because that's really the heart and soul. That if my daughter comes home and says, "Hey, my knee hurts after water polo," I'm like, take some drugs. Here's some ibuprofen.
Right.
Let's talk to the doctor. Are we going to go see a physical therapist? No. And when we back out of this thing, Juliet and I really feel like this is as much a conversation about social justice and equity as it is about performance. And that if we can start to untangle this really complex Gordian knot around pain and how my body feels, well, that's really going to change society and give people options and empower people to be able to make themselves feel better. And of course, your nutrition and sleep and stress, all of that matters. But that's ultimately what the heart and soul of performance was. I mean, in physical therapy, there's a sort of a revolution on the side about this biopsychosocial model. And which means that, hey, your environment matters, your loving relationships matter, your stress matters. And I'm like, no crap. Have you ever worked with an athlete before? That's the only way we can do this. Group cohesion and trust and vulnerability is the secret sauce, right? And so on the one hand, we're like, okay, that's important. And the coaching environment is the best place for that. We've learned this from performance. But secondarily, we have to give people basic recipes to be able to make themselves feel better. And if we ask around the group, and we do this all the time, how many of you are in pain? Probably 95% people are dealing with some kind of musculoskeletal issue. And that might be pain. It might be an old problem. It doesn't matter, right? They've self-identified it. And I say, how many of you are injured? No one raises their hand. So clearly pain and injury are not the same thing. And so that means, well, if I'm waiting around till I am injured, which means I can't do my job in society, I can't occupy my role in the family, can't do my sport, yeah, I'm really injured. Oh, there's a bone sticking out of my skin, right? I've got rabies of the knees. Something is off. You're clearly injured. Go see a medical professional. But the rest of the time, it's completely unrealistic and 100% horse crap that you're going to go talk to a professional person if your bottom of your foot hurts. You're going to wait until you cannot put it off anymore. So that's a real opportunity for us to say, hey, look, you can make yourself feel better. And 99% of the time, you almost can 100% improve the ball.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I think we really try to simplify it in our family because there's so much noise and there's so much complexity out there when it comes to nutrition. And, we really try to focus on like a few basic things. We try to sleep as much as we can. We have 2 kids and busy lives, so it's not always perfect. Kelly and I have like a game theory on vegetables. Like we try to eat as many of them as we can and diverse vegetables, even for breakfast. We're really huge fans of walking. We think that people don't walk enough. We try to exercise a few days a week and we try to like interact with our community and actually have human interaction. Because I think that's one thing we miss often in this whole health and fitness. Like if you look at the data, it shows that like what's going to make you live long actually is human connection. Yeah. That way outweighs exercise and fitness and all these other things that we're all super focused on. So it's like human connection, hanging out with your family, hanging out with your kids, prioritizing those things. We really just try to keep these simple, like we try to check those simple boxes in our lives on a daily basis. And to us, that's what it means to be ready.
And if you look at Peloton is a good example of the perfect habituation of people know and are not intimidated by an exercise bike. Right? They're like, I know what this is. My grandma hung her clothes on it. Right? We've always had one in the guest room. But the magic of Peloton is not the coaching. It's that you're a part of a tribe and you show up and you integrate. And so that, to Juliet's point, is really part of the thing. Humans are what's most important. And one of the things that's blown us away is that we have users who become competent and fluent in our model of movement and human restoration, and then they become the network hub around the community. They help people solve problems and put out flames, and we are really blown away at how sophisticated those people are. The same way that the Starrett gym, our home gym, is what we call the Starrett Home Health Center, and people from all of our neighborhood come and exercise at our gym. It's the same thing. Tribe.
That's awesome. So let's dive into it a little bit. What do you guys have in the Starrett home gym?
Everything.
Yeah, we have a lot of things. I will say that we have a lot of reject San Francisco CrossFit equipment.
Right.
So like some of our barbells are kind of curved and don't work perfectly, and a lot of our
not the limiting factor to your heavy
a lot of our plates are like missing the ring in between, and so we sort of we use it as like a resting place for commercial gym equipment. We do have everything. We do have a couple bikes. We use our bikes a ton. We obviously have a rowing machine, and then we have a rack and a few barbells and some weights and some kettlebells. It's not it's not fancy.
Right.
At all.
And we have a lot of equipment at the house, right? And you can drag sleds and flip tires and, of course, all the things. People need, like, if you had an assault bike and a pair of dumbbells and even a sandbag, dude, you're golden. I mean, you can go a long ways with those few things. What does Dan John say? Pick it up, put it over your head, carry it around. I mean, like, we have gotten so precious. Well, on Tuesday, I needed to hit 82.75% of my 1 rep max kettlebell swing. I'm like, dude, that's all. You're just lying to yourself. Get some work done. Work on your breathing. You got to breathe hard. I think that's a mistake if you're not breathing hard. I think one of the greatest gifts of CrossFit is that it tricked everyone into thinking that conditioning was cool. Because no one liked conditioning, right? Like the conditioning that we do in functional training or CrossFit style training is basically the same torture that I was given in high school.
Yeah.
Except now it's choice.
Yeah.
Right? It's choice, man. And so having money in that aerobic bank, working on your running skills, rowing and biking as your aerobic piece, and then strength is going to be a long game. And you don't how strong do you need to be go be a good effective runner or mom? Probably not as strong as you think you need.
And what are your thoughts on? So we touched on this last night. So kind of GPP and then going to hit some sort of event, right? Like so, say CrossFit style training, and then going to do a marathon or whatever. Versus you mentioned last night being like, okay, you're a lot better when you train for something. Like specifically, I do a 100-mile bike race every year. The first year I did it was more CrossFit style, just Metcons.
And how'd that go for you?
It was like a 9-hour hell ride. And then
you did it.
I did it. I completed it. Really broken. And then fast forward to this past year, I probably shaved 4.5 hours off of that original time, but I cycled, in leading up to it a lot, and did that. So I would love to just get your thoughts on that. It's almost like a no-brainer, but I just want to hear you guys kind of express your opinions on it.
Well, I mean, Kelly and I do exactly what you did in your first run, which is we love to compete, both of us. So we're always signed up for something, whether it's a Spartan race or a paddling race or some mountain biking thing, I don't know what it is we're doing, but we're always doing some competitive thing. And 9 times out of 10, we're not training specifically for that thing. Right. It hurts sometimes. We'll show up and do some paddle race, and we've been paddled for 3 months and we're fit and we've been CrossFitting. But so I think we love the fact that we can be these off the couch competitive athletes by just doing CrossFit. I think that's one of the things we love about it. Like we can show up and maybe not be the fastest, we can do it, and that's cool. That's what we're going to do tomorrow when we do the super. We have not trained for this at all in any specific way.
Speak for yourself, woman.
However,
I've been closetly doing sprints up the hills.
But however,
Jump
we
over
have
fence.
learned over the years, and Kelly can get more into the details on this. We have learned and sort of swung back around a little bit over the years to realize, man, like if we want to be the best or the fastest at a thing, we actually need to do that thing.
So, right.
I
Sometimes.
think when we started,
at least a few times a week.
when we got into we'll call it the modern strength conditioning phase, right? Overhead squatting is a good example. I don't think everyone should be able to. I think everyone should be able to squat. I don't think you have to if you can't, right? Don't get me wrong. But 15 years ago, I'm like overhead squat, and people were like, "What is that?" Right? You mean yoga where I put my hands together in that gun hand pose and I squat down? I'm like, not what I mean, right? So the world has changed dramatically in terms of what we can do. And to that effect, I think even 10 years ago, but definitely 15 years ago, we weren't strong. We weren't very skilled, and we certainly weren't conditioned under body weight gymnastics, kettlebell swings. I mean, if you read the old Pavel books, the 100 kettlebell snatch test used to destroy people.
Yeah.
Now, it's like a finisher that you do for 4 minutes is kind of a cookie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I just want a little more work. Let me just do, So something has changed. I mean, my daughter is 11, and she'll often do 100 kettlebell swings so she can have 2 popsicles. You know? And
I like that.
And she swings to 35. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not nothing. And her technique is good. And so the world has changed. But a few years ago, we were running and biking a lot, and we weren't skilled, or we weren't very strong. And so we were all like, oh, crap, look at all this gold lying on the ground. And I think in that message, we got confused for a second, that we pulled out of sport training. And a lot of us had jobs and families, and we could really go to the gym, and it respected our time, that we had 20 to 40 minutes. You could have a movement practice, get strong, work on skills, look better naked very quickly. And then we confuse that with that's enough.
Right.
Fast forward, here we are now. And Juliet, underneath what Juliet said was, we have made a commitment in the last 5 years to do a lot more play. And that play comes along with the terms of mountain biking and paddling and hiking and doing which was the original mandate of CrossFit, believe it or not, a long time ago. Learn and play new sports all the time. So I think it's normal expression for people to like, dude, I'm getting crushed. I have these babies. I'm working my ass off. Dude, go to the gym. Don't worry about it. But the second your space opens up, start dropping off some of those GPP sports preparation skills for something you want to do, and go play and go challenge and use your fitness so that you can have a better experience when you're doing that and you go do that race.
Right.
And you can certainly, be austere and just CrossFit and then go run a marathon. I don't recommend it, but you can do it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not the way. So, some exposure matters. And even in our best athletes now, we're seeing them become very competent cyclists. And I'm talking about CrossFit athletes, very competent runners. They're very competent swimmers. See rule number 1. Here we are back 15 years ago, except now everyone is very strong and very skilled.
Yeah.
Right?
And it does get you pretty far. Like, so I was that guy. And then this past year, I saw the guy not clipped in nanos, wearing like a CrossFit shirt. He's doing the 100-mile bike race. And he's keeping up with me for a good amount. But then mile 40, he's laying on the ground.
Right.
I'm just like, it got you pretty far, though, man. Like, good work. I was like, I've been there. Just ride a little bit more.
How's that sweet potato tasting right now, bro?
Yeah. Yeah,
how about a peanut butter jelly sandwich?
I just have to say, though, I have to go back that may be like my favorite all-time PR story. I mean, like shaving off 4.5 hours off of an event is like the single greatest PR on earth. It's hilarious.
About 10 years ago, I ran an ultra. It's called the Quad Dipsy. It's this brutal mountain 50K in our neighborhood. And the cutoff time was 8.5 hours, and I ran in 8 hours and 29 minutes.
Nice.
And I knew, and those jerks.
And when he got to the halfway point, because it's kind of an out and back, he got to the halfway point, the winners were finishing when he was halfway, and he's like, that was a low moment.
It was a low moment all
Yeah.
the time. And I ran 4 5Ks and a bunch of 400s to get ready for it, right? And I did it, and someone was like, wow, and I was like, look, if the cutoff time was 7.5 hours, I made it to 7.5 hours. So I used the whole allotment, right? You have this much time, I'm going to survive this thing. And what I'll tell you is that if I went 7.5 hours, it still wasn't fast. If I went 6.5 hours, it still wasn't fast. It would have been better if I had been a runner.
Yeah.
Or doing more running. That would have made it easier. But, the real question that we want, or the thing we're trying to tell people, is we want you to have options. And with a little smart training in your gym, in your home gym, in your gym, if you're looking at this as a movement practice and coordination as much as setting a PR, because we're seeing all the classic, I was just at Strava recently, and Strava really wants you to PR, and you have these positive trends, and that at some point you're not going to PR. Something's going to happen. And what we saw at the Strava, and I'll throw them all under the bus right now, was a lot of injured runners and injured cyclists. Because more of that does not make you a better, more durable runner. So there's some kind of mixture in there. And look, if you're going to the gym for aesthetics and to lose you just had a baby and you want to great, we're down. But we're also seeing that the best practice here is about realizing that you should be feeling good and giving yourself movement options, because you're going to be on the planet until you're 100. Let's start having that conversation now. all these people who are elite level, if they're still competing and running and playing and jumping and swinging when they're 60 and 70 and 80, then I'll know that their programming was working. If our programming ends in a dead end, catastrophe, I don't run anymore, my back won't take that, then that for me is there was an error in the system. So it's really difficult for us to play this short game. What can I manage today? Because I got to keep an eye on the fact that I'm going to be 100. That is the reality of being a modern person. And whoever has the most function when they're 100, that's gonna be the key. I want to keep up with Juliet and not get dropped by her boyfriend when she's 100.
I think that comes with like rushing results. Like with our program, some people have goals and like, I want to hit 30 pounds on my squat at the end of this cycle. It's like, well, what about the rest of your metrics? What else do you want to do? So we want to try and increase everything across the board so that next year you're better everywhere. Versus just focusing on one thing and then that thing might have gone away or you're hurt or something.
Yeah, that's really difficult. And that's not anyone's fault. That's a normal expression of how we've all been taught to think about fitness. Mm-hmm. Goal, we always use this joke. I'm like, oh, how long did it take you to drive to work today? PR'd, 17 minutes. I ran 6 red lights, hit 2 pedestrians, had 4 accidents, but I PR'd. And I'm like, well, that sounds a lot like your last workout. Right? And your knee hurts and your back hurts and you were so stiff. And, and if that's the only thing we value instead of competency, and that means that we need to be thinking about athletic development as this infinite game that we're going to never win, but we're only going to play better and better and better. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, the people here who are masters are really, really good, and they're getting better every year. Does the engine get as hot? No. Are you going to max out on your deadlift every single year? No. But guess what? You don't need to. You can become a more skilled, better prepared competitor for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and that's what excites me most about programming. I always say that to new athletes is like, I'm really here to program for you if you're going to let me do your programming for a decade or more.
That's great.
Like that's the only con to that to some people is what he's talking about is if you want something right now, I'm not your guy. But if you want to slowly develop things...
No, I signed up for the 10-day shred.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Dude, we're wasting time right now.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that that's really important and something that's often lost. Like this year, I've always been really goal-oriented my whole life. Like PR this fast, whatever. And this year I was like, I just wanted to train 300 times. Like, I don't care what the training is. I want to hit 300 training sessions in 2019.
That's great.
And whatever that is, whether it's a walk one day, in the programming, whatever it is, and that's the only thing I'm tracking. And I've really had one of the most fun years yet.
And in the days you couldn't do it, you were on an airplane.
Right.
Like
it was out of your control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think our whole, we talked about this earlier today, but like our whole philosophy, especially at our gym, is like CrossFit for life. Like we sort of stop this like reach your PR, meet your goal, whatever. We're like, hey, we're trying to create athletes who can consistently keep doing some kind of training until they're really old. Yeah. And that's sort of how we approach our own fitness too. I mean, we really take this like consistency approach and also the patience. Like sometimes I think, Kelly will deadlift with these young guys and they're like, what the hell? Why is this old guy deadlifting 500? Like it's no big deal or whatever. Or sorry, whatever. I don't know. See how much I care. But,
you don't even know me.
Kelly's like, you can't, you can't dismiss just consistently training
right
for 30 years. That's what we've been doing, and so I think that, when you have just the short-term goal in mind, you forget that like the goal is to consistently train, build up strength, and then live a long, healthy life.
We have 2 friends, two stories about this. One is that we have a lot of women in our neighborhood who see Juliet's abs. And Juliet, my wife, has 2 kids, runs a couple businesses, yada, yada, but she has abs, and they piss me off. It's not fair. And I'm like, they don't even help you. They're just vanity abs. But a lot of times her girlfriends are like, hey, I want those abs. And Juliet's like, great. All you have to do is be training since high school when I was a rower.
Yeah.
On the rowing
like
team.
I literally have been
since
like...
I was 13, I've been suffering. So ready to go?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
you want
literally
that program?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm 30 years into this project. It's just, and really for me, I think that it's been the consistency.
And, one of our friends, Matt Vincent, world champion Highland Games athlete, someone asked him, like, hey, what do you think the best way to get strong is? He's like, I don't know, lift a heavy weight once a week for 10 years. Let me know how that goes. And I think it's Instagram makes it worse, but it's difficult for us to appreciate what consistency looks like. And something you said I think is really cool. what does my programming and our relationship look like in 10 years? And I ask a lot of coaches, how many of you actually coach someone for 10 years? We've coached now people for 15 years. That means I'm responsible for all the bad decisions and some of the good decisions. Right. But 15 years of athletic development and consistency. And that means, sometimes we can't see the inputs and outputs. So people are like, my elite booty shred, NAR gain. I'm like, well, did that athlete drop out of your program? Did they not stick with it?
Right.
Like, if you've coached someone for a decade, you really get to see the results of your work. And that athletic development, whether I'm a mom just trying to reclaim or a dad who's like, hey, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to play with my kids and play football, that's really this long game. And you don't have to play it perfectly because the human being is so tolerant. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than you were yesterday.
No one plays football anymore.
With their kids.
I'm just saying it's out. It's on the outs.
Is it on the way out?
Lacrosse, yes.
Yeah, lacrosse. I don't have sons. So I've never been.
I have two.
You have
So
two sons.
When we take all the helmets off, football's gonna be great.
Yeah.
You can see people's faces. It's going to be so exciting when helmet comes
You mean
off for football.
rugby?
Oops.
Okay.
You said it.
Just saying.
Hey,
Lacrosse.
full. Look, we're not throwing
is
shade.
really
I played football in high school, and for me, one of the things was it got a bunch of guys on our team lifting weights for the first time, and they found a tribe again for the first time. So some 300-pound kids who showed up to try to be offensive linemen on my football team were in a community of people who trained and ran, and that's the goal. And we've gotten away from that. And I don't know if that's social media or Instagram or however it is, but we're dragging up our tire up and down the street or dragging our sled, and people are like, "Can I jump that?" I'm like, "Come on in, and come work out with us." And we've got to make this a core value of being part of our society.
And this is kind of a non sequitur, but I just want to say what you guys are doing is so important because even though Kelly and I own a commercial gym, we literally tell everyone, maybe against our best interest, like, dude, you need to have a home gym. And if you have a kid, it's like extra mandatory that you have a home gym. Like our home gym saved our lives in fitness when we had little children.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how
literally
it works. Yeah, so 3 kids, same story. I have no idea. Like, I probably would have abandoned fitness at some
altogether.
point. Yeah,
altogether. Yeah.
Do you remember the 10 at 10?
Yeah.
I would get home after teaching and I would do 10 burpees, 10 pull-ups, 10 kettlebell swings, 10 thrusters
at 10 p.m.
for 10 minutes.
Nice.
At 10 p.m.
Nice.
That's
Like all the 10s.
Yeah.
What can I do? I looked around and I was 10 minutes to do all of this stuff, and it wasn't gorgeous programming, and it certainly wasn't going to win any records, but I had to check the box. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 at 10.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what I talk about with athletes, because I have a lot of friends who are box owners and things like that. And I'm not trying to say abandon the box. It's like, it's Christmas. Maybe you're off for a week. You're not going to the box. Do you have at least a dumbbell you could snatch in your garage or something like that to put together your own programming instead of this whole it's the holidays and so screw everything. Like, it's not going to work, which happens with a lot of people. So I think having any amount of equipment so people become a little bit more self-sufficient is very important.
Well, and I think there's so much access now. I mean, maybe too much and maybe this overwhelms people, but, back in the day, people would get home gym equipment and never use it. And I think the reason they never used it is there was no connected program to it. But now it's you can go on and type in 20-minute kettlebell workout.
You'll find exactly that.
Kettlebell flow.
Or whatever it is, but it's so easy to find programming. And I think, maybe people they think, I'm going to get this equipment and not to know what to do with it. But man, there are videos on every movement, how to perform every movement you might want to do with any piece of equipment in your home gym. There's little workouts that you can put together. Like Kelly said, we have the Starrett Home Health Center. We basically have told all our neighbors, come over anytime. Here's the garage code. Here's the gate key.
It's a weighted, cardio-demanded movement practice.
And they just literally go online to somewhere and they find some kind of program that feels cool to them. And they do it with our equipment at our home gym. And we're like, sweet. That's the goal.
That's awesome.
It may not be the goal. Then we get into the confusing thing where my program is the program that makes elite athletes. I'm like, that's very different.
Yeah.
We're talking about what is the minimum sort of viable movement in the time that would allow me to, feel better, manage some of my insulin sensitivity, right? Load my tendons and ligaments, restore my positions. That looks a little different than, hey, I'm training for a specific thing. And we can turn that up based on some of those movements. We can dial that up and make you more proficient at your sport, right? We can make you more proficient prepared for your sport. But on the other hand, it's just a modern movement practice. So if you like went into sun salutation in yoga, you're like, this is really clever and smart. It's like someone thought about this, right? And then I'm like, okay, now hold these dumbbells and do the same thing. And you can see that modern movement practice everyone should be able to do that. Like in order to graduate from middle school, you should be able to swing a kettlebell, do some rows, right? Turkish get up, some presses, lunge, check.
But I think like our philosophy is you don't, like 98% of people do not need some super special programming. Like they just need to move. Like, yeah, there's 2% of us that we're trying to compete and we're trying to do things and we're trying to be elite athletes or whatever we're trying to do. But that's not the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people are just trying to live like a basically healthy life, whatever that means to them. And they just need to move their bodies a little bit. They need to have some load involved. They need to eat a few vegetables and sleep sometimes. It's like really the prescription should be pretty simple.
Yeah, I get asked that question all the time. Like, hey, what should I do for my dad or my brother, who's not very into this? And I'm like, maybe suggest they walk and then some sort of muscle contraction practice.
Muscle contraction TM.
I like that. TM.
And that's it.
Hold this Costco bag of dog food and then sit on this chair.
Yeah.
And then stand back up and do it 10 times.
Yeah, I mean, if that's your starting point is like standard American diet and
muscle contraction,
not moving anything, like that's all you need. So
things you need to do. You may have heard us talk about this, but one of the things we're obsessed with is walking. And this all kind of came to mind to us when we started walking our kid to school every day. And it sort of created this community of people walking to school, which was super cool. But I saw this chart, this graph online when I was doing some research around our nonprofit Stand Up Kids, where it showed that, people really started joining gyms in the 80s. Like that was when gym membership really started going up. And literally gym membership and obesity levels track perfectly.
Right.
So what that told me was that people are hearing the message. They're like, okay, I need to work out. Like they got it. Like check the box. Everyone knows they need to work out. Mm-hmm. Check. So they've all joined a gym. Who knows if they're going, whatever. But what I think we've done a terrible job of telling people is like, man, we're human beings. Human beings need to be moving a lot all day long in the form of walking.
And that's not a gym.
You don't need a gym. You don't need any equipment, man. Like if Kelly and I had to give up formal training versus walking, we would actually choose walking. Because, that's what is, that's what we're supposed to be doing as humans. So I think that's the piece a lot of people are missing is like they've checked the box, they're going to the gym, but then they're sitting for the other 16 or 18 hours of their day.
And eating crap.
Yeah.
Or stress cases and don't know how to shut off. It seems like an intractable problem. We're talking to, the county we live in, used to be the healthiest county in California. And now we're no longer the healthiest county because of the adult binge drinking. So people are drinking so much wine. And we think, one is, there's a lot of good wine now.
Yeah.
And two, people are trying to make themselves feel better and take the edge off of the day, which is insane. People are running these. I think about my mom, not throwing her under the bus, when she was a single working mother. And I was like, dude, she had so much time to chill. And now, like, the things that were going on in people's lives around sports and kids and school and demands, and people get home and they're like, dude, I'm fried. I don't know how to make myself feel better. So we think that they're trying to self-medicate with this. And so now we're on this depressant stimulant cycle. You are drinking 16 cups of bulletproof coffee. You're taking, drinking a bottle of wine. And then that's THC or Ambien and Adderall. I mean, choose your vice. But really, ultimately, this is about, hey, I'm not sure how to make myself feel better as a context of a human. And one of the things that we start to get back to is these simple, first principle behaviors. And what Juliet's saying is, if you're having a hard time falling asleep, if you've accumulated 10 to 12,000 steps a day, you will hit the pillow and black out.
Right.
And that's because you've accumulated.
In addition to doing a little workout.
Because that's the non-exercise activity that's going to decongest your body, load your ligaments and tendons, right? It's vital that you're thinking exercise is not a multivitamin. Just on the way up here, we're listening to some GNC commercial, and the guy's like, no, I should eat better, but I hate kale. So I take this vitamin. And I was like,
You actually just imitated that guy perfectly.
really is.
Perfectly.
Okay, that's stupid. And so I just take this vitamin instead, and then I don't have to feel so bad when I eat like crap. And I was like, wow, that's what we're doing. And that's how we're viewing exercise, not as what is it human beings are supposed to do? Move. We don't care how you do it or why you want to do it. But that's not like, oh, I'm not going to move. I'll go to the gym and smash myself in 8 minutes.
Where's the easy button? Yeah.
Dude.
I've seen like protein beer, like protein in beer, like
Just in case you're not hitting your
Genius.
macros,
Yeah.
we got you covered.
Protein beer.
That's
Oh my
that's a
God.
great example where people are like, oh, I'm on this macro diet. I'm like, you're eating gummy bears.
Yeah.
Get your macros in. You know, like,
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on.
I
What?
think-
Like you're afraid of fruit, but you're eating, like fruit is devil. I'm like, is it really?
Yeah,
Should
yeah.
you-
I
are you
was
really
like-
afraid of blueberries? Are people getting obese because of blueberries? Is that what
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that really slayed me. I was part of this like macro counting group for a while, and I was like, wow, everyone is literally waiting till the end of the day, and they're behind on their carbohydrate macros, and they're eating hot tamales. Like that's the thing, and I was like, wait, okay, what? Like I can't get behind that. Can't get behind that as a plan. Even though I like hot tamales.
One of my daily practices, so if people are listening, I try to eat 800 grams of vegetables and fruits a day.
Okay.
That came from
Can you
optimized
explain
nutrition.
to regular people what that means in an amount?
That means that's 1.74 pounds of vegetables and fruits. Nice. Apples are back on the table. An orange. I don't know the last time you had an orange. It'll blow your mind. It's like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But I try to get 8 different kinds of vegetables and fruits in a day. So I wake up and our typical model is not, I mean, if you want to eat almost 2 kilos of apples every day, knock yourself out. I guarantee you it's not going to make you fat. And in 3 days, you're going to be like, I'm done with apples.
Yeah,
forever.
and yeah.
But what I think what's happened is, once again, we're trying to add density back to the diet by not taking things away. Like walk a little bit more. That's new. That's net positive. Eat more vegetables and fruits in a day. Like, I mean, let me know when your blood sugars go through the roof because you ate too many blackberries. Like, It's just not going to happen, right? It's just not. So, the first principles are, how can we get people thinking about reimagining their lives? If you have thumbs and can manipulate your environment, I guarantee you can make these small changes. And sometimes you can't, and then don't worry about it. You just can't. Like last night at that dinner, did you see that pile of vegetables we had? Just huge piles of veggies. And I cherry picked all the veggies that I wanted.
That's why there wasn't any left.
Yeah, when we got here, we had no more vegetables left.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That was Kelly's fault.
That's Kelly. Yeah, I got it.
So, control what you can control, where you are. Make do with what you have. That's the old maxim. And then tomorrow you'll do better.
Awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. Normally, I end with like, "What's your best advice?" But I feel like that was pretty awesome. You guys do you want to give a best advice response?
Just be consistent. Be consistent.
Yeah, we like to be heroic, and we reward being heroic on Instagram. But I'm like, let me see those abs in 30 days. Let me see them in 60 days. Let me see them next year. Because that is the game here, and that is what we have lost. And look, we're all chasing the shiny new thing, But the difference between excellence and being hot is performing at a high level for a long time. You've got to be excellent and starting to think that, hey, I have time to make mistakes. I'm not going to beat myself up. And tomorrow I'm going to get up and walk a little bit more or control what I can control. And you'll be shocked. We had a woman, based on Juliet's recommendation, walking more, came to our walking school bus for 3 months and lost 20 pounds.
That's amazing.
And she's like, this changed my life. Juliet and I are like, walking 2 miles changed your life? And she's like, yeah, she lost 20 pounds. Think about what her body's screaming at her. I need input.
Yeah. I need to move.
Well, that study we went over about walking, that was like, you walk for 20 minutes a day, it's even better recovery than all kinds of other crazy things.
100%. And if you're like, I'm elite, I need more walking, well, I have a 50-pound sandbag, and I just throw it over my shoulder and go for the walk. And at the end of the walk, I'm like, this is the hardest walk I've ever been on. And I make Juliet carry the sandbag sometimes. Baby, that's walking. Our friends at Go Ruck, get yourself a backpack, put some dog food in there. If it's not, you feel like you need a little more input, and then go walk the steepest hill in your neighborhood. And let me know how that walking goes for you.
Awesome. So where can people find more about the rebrand and everything?
We are at thereadystate.com, at The Ready State on all the socials.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you both for being here.
Thank you guys so much for having us.
Thanks for
fun.
listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.